Good evening, this is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV, and tonight is Wednesday night. This is typically our lighting night. We're going to talk lighting, and usually we have Nick with us from Chauvet DJ. Well, Nick is out on the West Coast. He's having fun. Actually, he's at a DJ convention, or not a DJ convention, a lighting show. I believe, there's a couple of them going on, actually, and I know there's Chauvet DJs at both of them, so I really don't know where he's at. He's probably up to, there with stuff going on. And anyway, so we haven't been able to get a hold of Nick today. So instead of Nick talking to us tonight, we've got a special guest. Jeremy, are you ready? You are ready. Well, you are special. But what we're going to do tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is I've got Jeremy Brech here. And of course, many of you have seen some of his educational seminars. We've got those up on our YouTube page. But Jeremy Brech is a lighting guy. And he knows a ton about lighting. He teaches about lighting. He speaks about lighting. He writes about lighting. He shines lighting at his wife, and she slaps him once in a while. It's a great story. Good evening, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, John?
Doing well. Doing very, very well. Very well. Glad you could join us tonight on such short notice. Yeah, it's one of those days that just kind of went crazy on us.
Oh, that's good.
So we were going to talk about outdoor lighting. As we're getting into summer, and a lot of DJs are doing events that are outside, whether it's the just ceremony, but most often, in my case, I've got tent, under the tent type event. So let's just kind of share some thoughts and ideas with things that DJs should know about doing some lighting outdoors in those situations, and kind of go from there. So first off, for my first question for you though is give me a couple of outdoor events where you've used lighting outside.
We've actually done quite a bit of outdoor events, and the main thing you want to keep in mind when doing outdoor events is the IP rating, which we're going to talk about here after a little bit. Some of the events that we do, we actually do quite a bit of tent weddings, like you talked about. Yep. A lot of tent events. We see a lot of corporate stuff happening out in tents now too. And I think it's because a lot of people now see the potential of what tent lighting can be and what the decor they can do inside of a tent. Before, a white tent used just to be a white tent.
Right.
I think we've added a lot of value to what those outdoor events can really become. And, some of the other things we do a lot of events. We have a large corporate event called Pro-Am Jam. We do that every year. And, they spend buco bucks on this corporate event. It's a professional and amateur golf tournament at a country club, and they bring in big headliner bands. Last year they had Big and Rich, they had Third Eye Blind. The year before that they had Huey Lewis and the News, and every year they try to go up, take it to the next level. What we do at the event, we don't do any of the stage or anything like that, but we do all of the ambient, all of the bling, what a lot of people call it,
Sure.
the tent company that we work with, they always say, well, we'll bring in the tables, the tent, and all that, and then Jeremy comes in and does the bling.
Sure.
We add that splash of color, whatever that, the feel that they're going for in the tent, and again, it creates a blank canvas and creates something interesting. So with the corporate event, we do the tent, but we also do a lot of the ambient lighting on trees, and that's been really popular. We've had a really good opportunity to tackle a lot of our market with the outdoor fixtures and creating tree ambiance. We also have a bunch of lighting that we're going to be doing in some of the state parks in our area. We want to create some amazing pictures, amazing video, and then give that to the media, and basically that's going to help us promote ourselves, and also just kind of create some interest to those parks as well. So those are kind of the big projects that we work on when it comes to outdoors.
Well, let's go back. We're going to hit a lot of these things you've just talked about. Let's start with the trees. Now, we've both traveled to Las Vegas, and we were out in different southern states where lighting trees is more common. What kind of things have you done with lighting a tree? We have a small maple or oak tree, what have you. What have you done so far? What has worked, and what has been a challenge for you?
The challenge is, depending on how big the tree is, that's probably your biggest challenge. How do you hit the tree in all different angles? How do you hit it so you cover the entire tree? So there are a lot of different issues that you run into when it comes to the throw or the projection. Now, and again, we're going to talk a little bit more about IP ratings, but that is actually probably the biggest thing that I think DJs think they can do is, or any lighting designers, they get regular fixtures that are not rated for outdoor,
Sure.
and they use those outside. Well, what happens, if something would happen, if it rained or if, snow, heaven forbid we have snow in the Midwest, if we have any of those issues and they're not IP fixtures, basically those fixtures are going to be ruined and insurance won't cover them because
Sure.
they're not rated for outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, again, biggest thing is probably your throw ratios, which, it really depends on what light you get. There's some that are anywhere from a 19 degree to a 50 degree beam. So,
Okay.
That's going to be a big thing. The other thing I would really stress is making sure that if you're doing any outdoor events and you're running cables and wires and things like that, make sure that you pin them down really well. And it's hard to eliminate any type of wire or anything like that, because we have to run generators and then we run power off of that. With the new LED fixtures, obviously they're a lot more efficient, so we can run multiple units with one cord. But again, pinning them down so your guests don't trip over them, because at night they're not going to be able to see those cords.
Sure. Just got to reset my volume here. Okay.
No problem.
You mentioned, of course, you mentioned IP, and I want to talk about safety, with the safety aspect of it. We'll talk about the different, the type of fixtures, and you mentioned the pinning cords down, and we're going to talk about the importance of, the proper cords and things such as that. But let's in the early part, focus on, again, with you when you're doing the trees, and you mentioned a state park. Is the goal to do the trunks in those situations, or is it a better effect to do the canopy and the trunk or branch? How do you decide? I mean, what's the deciding factor on what you're going to be, regardless of size of the tree?
Sure. That's a good question. I mean, really, that tree becomes your canvas, and you can do whatever you want with that tree. If you want to create one color, you want to do some contrast, do the trunk in one color, and then do the branches or the leaves in a different color, it really does give you those opportunities. And again, the biggest thing is just making sure that the distance of the lights are going to be projecting across the entire top part of the tree. But the other thing you need to keep in mind too is make sure that they're out of the way of guests. So when guests are walking by, they're not hitting or walking in front of that beam and covering up the throw of your light.
Yeah, all of a sudden, no, that lost its effect. Oh, it's there. Oh, it's gone. Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
That would be.
And then you got shadow puppets and then inappropriate puppets, and I mean, it just gets scary.
What? People do that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So now, when a person moves to a tent situation, and you're wanting to illuminate the tent, now let's do that. Do you use a different fixture in a tent or than you would inside? I mean, do you need to have that more of a all weather type fixture in a tent, or where does it go to the point where you need to be looking at a more of a water resistant fixture?
Sure, and that's a good question. One thing I would do, first of all, I would maybe check with your insurance company and see if a tent is considered an outdoor structure or if it's considered an indoor structure. Again, because if something happens to that light and your insurance company says, sorry, you used it inappropriately, they're probably not going to cover it. I'm not going to lie, we don't do everything with IP fixtures. A lot of the tents that we actually have the original Chauvet Rain 56 aluminum par cans.
Yep.
The first light that they ever came out with when it came to LED pars. Those work really great for us when it comes to tents. Because a couple of reasons. Because the fixture is so light, we can mount it right to the pole using spring clamps. And then the other thing, it gives us the opportunity to run the cords up in the tie strings, where the sidewalls connect. And they actually had white cords when they came out with these fixtures, so the white cords actually blend in perfectly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So do you need outdoor fixtures for inside tents? Not necessarily, but I mean, obviously, again, you kind of have to use your own discretion and check with your insurance company to see if they will actually back it up.
Sure. Now, when we're looking at outdoor fixtures, and we'll, just looking at the weather resistant, because when we've had Nick has talked about, there's some that are kind of water resistant, and there's some that are truly waterproof. Mm-hmm. I don't know the difference in rating between the two of them, but what are some of the water resistant / waterproof fixtures that you've had experience with using out in the field?
When Chauvet came out with the Colorado series, we actually bought probably more than what we needed, but we bought a lot of them. And some of the things that we've been able to do with those fixtures have really been phenomenal. We found a city park in Sioux Falls, and it's known for Falls Park. So we actually went and lit all that up. And after this, I will actually I will email you some of the, or I'll put some of those pictures up. So people can kind of see exactly what the advantages of using outdoor fixtures are.
Sure.
It's not just about the IP rating. It's also about the brightness of the fixture. And, some of the fixtures, I do have some of the fixtures here that I'll be able to show you. But the amount of power that those fixtures have are pretty phenomenal. Chauvet DJ just came out with, let's see, it is the Slim Par series, and also the Pix IP series. And again, I'll explain a little bit more on those. So what's the difference between a regular fixture and some of these fixtures? These fixtures do not have any type of open circuitry. There's no fan. It's not fan cooled. It's all air cooled. Basically, it's like think about a motorcycle. When a motorcycle has a radiator, then it's basically fan cooled. When you see on the side of the engine, you'll see the vents on the side of the block. Basically, that's air cooled. It's relying on the air that's going to be passing by the engine to cool it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what these fixtures are like. They have vents to basically keep the circuitry cool and the lights cool. So again, they're more efficient in being outside. So again, when you're looking for outdoor fixtures, IP65 is kind of that threshold.
Okay.
What I would consider to be an outdoor fixture. Anything else that is not IP65 or better, again, you take that risk of putting your fixtures outside.
Sure. Now with the IP65, are they? I would assume now some lights, of course, are just a 2-prong, a ground or the neutral and the hot. Now the IP65, I'm assuming they're all a 3-prong with the ground and the neutral and the hot.
Yeah, I would say, probably, 95% of your fixtures anymore are going to be 3-prong. Even a pin spot's going to be 3-prong.
Mm-hmm.
But you're exactly right. All of the IP fixtures are going to be 3-prong. But also the cords that they use for these fixtures are a lot different than your typical your typical cords that you see with your normal uplights and things like that.
Now, what kind of differences would you see in the cords? Are they a thicker, more resilient?
You know what? I will show you here. So this is, I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yep, there we go.
This is the cord for the IP fixtures. And you can see it's a 3-prong.
Yep.
But on here, this is actually a weather-tight seal that'll plug into the fixture.
I gotcha. I see.
So what there is there's actually a water seal, basically a washer that allows this to connect to the fixture. And then there's a plastic screw that will actually screw onto this, and it basically makes it weather tight.
Oh, nice.
Now, again, when you look at IP65 fixtures, they're not submersible. Can water get on them? Can they get rained on? Can they get snowed on? Absolutely. But it's not one of those things where you'd want to put the fixture into the water. That's going to be more of a IP67, 68. That's going to be more of a submersible fixture.
Okay. Gotcha. So now, okay, so you've got that part of it's water resistant because it clamps in and such. But now, continuing on to our power supply, what are some of the things a person can do so that the other end of that cord isn't sitting in water causing a potential shock hazard? Is there something a guy could do with that, or how do you handle that?
Sure. Obviously, your cord where it connects, you do have that risk, exactly what you're saying. You have that risk of any moisture getting inside there and causing your light to short out or, flip the breaker. One thing that we usually do is we'll actually wrap it in electric tape,
okay,
where the connection is, and wrap it pretty good. And then usually what we'll do is we will put some type of, you can put a plastic bag, anything that's going to keep moisture out. Obviously, again, it's not going to be submersible, but once you put that plastic seal over it and then wrap it again with some tape, just to make it kind of, again, if it gets rained on, you're probably not going to have any issues. But that black tape the electrical tape's going to be very important to keep it sealed and to keep that moisture out of there.
Sure. That's nice. Now, you mentioned that you've used generators when you've been doing some of the outdoor things. Are there any special precautions that a person needs to use generator when you're using a generator for that type of lighting outdoor event? That you would do above and beyond what you would do if you were just plugging into the side of a building?
Just make sure that you do have enough wattage. And the other thing too is remember that it's not just about the ambiance of the lighting that you're creating. It's about the atmosphere and what people are hearing. And what I mean by that is make sure that your generator is quiet. You don't want to have this beautiful wedding and someone's doing their toast and speeches and you hear the generator in the back, keeping your lights powered on.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. Make sure that you get something that's either going to be far enough away, and then also make sure that it is quiet enough where it's not going to cause any interference in the event. Another thing I would probably recommend is make sure that you have enough cords that are going to span across, and that you're not taking all the juice out of one outlet or overdoing an outlet.
Okay.
The other thing to keep in mind though too is if your generator's too far away and now you're running 200, 300 feet of cord, you're gonna have power drop. And basically it's just like signal when you look at a wireless microphone. The further away you get, the weaker the signal is. That's exactly what a power cord is going to do. So if you go past, I believe it's 120 feet, you're starting to get some power loss, and you start losing some of the wattage that you have coming through that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd certainly be an issue when a person's trying to get that generator far enough away.
Yep.
We had one wedding we used a generator, and just so happened it was kind of the country theme. And what they did is they actually made a little barricade with straw bales, and just kind of set up a couple of spots. And it looked like just a little pile of straw bales, but it just worked wonderfully to muffle the sound of the generator.
Yep, and that's perfect. We've had that as well, where basically we just reflect the sound away from the event.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you said with your straw bales. The one thing with the straw bales is remember you do have a generator that's gasoline and heat, and you just don't want to start the bonfire at the event.
Yeah, exactly. So these bales would have gone poof. But yeah, we made sure the muffler was pointed away and that there was a good 7 or 8 feet between the two, because we didn't really want to we didn't want to be roasting marshmallows over there compared to over there.
Really messes with the flow.
That would have really been bad. Really been bad. One of the challenges, and this that really doesn't maybe get the fit, but maybe you've experienced this. We get a lot of bugs in the evenings because a lot of my outdoor events are around lakes up here. Is there something you've done or experienced that have been a way to deal with that so you don't have a million bugs hanging around the lights and causing a huge mess and everything? Or is
sure.
That
one of the things as I guess you can call us lighting designers, DJs, however you want to put it, but to act as the professional and to be the professional, you always want to have advice for your couples or for the venue or wherever you're working. One thing you can do, and really there's nothing you can do on site at that point. If it's LED lighting, if it's halogen lighting, no matter what, bugs are attracted to it. And the best thing you can do is to actually just talk to the people who are facilitating the tent or whatever the area, and just let them know that they should spray usually 2 to 3 days beforehand. And we've noticed that has really made an effect to make sure that there are no bug issues or anything like that.
Just doing like a fogging of the grounds and such, and
yeah, exactly. And again, do it a couple days out. You don't want to have it so that chemical is fresh on the grass, and then your guests are walking through there. You got women in high heels, and now it's affecting in their feet. So again, keep the guests in mind. You don't want them to be walking through chemicals the entire time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Have you done any using rope lighting in your outdoor events? Have you played with rope lighting at all in any of those, or has it been more of a flood and wash type lighting?
We haven't done anything with rope lighting. To me, and don't take this wrong, and I apologize if anybody does use rope lighting. To me, rope lighting looks cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really done anything with that. The one thing you can do with rope lighting, which actually would look nice, is you could actually wrap the poles of a tent. Or even just wrap a tree, but to actually use that as considered ambient lighting, it doesn't make as good of an effect. We actually put an order in for some new, they're called LED blossom trees, and I'm excited to see those come in. when I was down in the Dominican, there was a restaurant that actually had these sitting outside their restaurant.
Okay.
And, being a lighting guy, here I'm, 500 feet away from this. And it was just like chariots of fire as I get closer and closer to this thing. And then, my wife's asking me, why am I not moving? I was at a standstill. So, there are different effects that look nice. Again, if rope lighting is used correctly, it can look good. If you do wrap the tent poles, one thing that works well, and again, we did it with an event, but we actually we had the center mast poles. We actually did basically a cover that that cover glowed. But we used PARS to actually light that up, but you could actually use a rope light to do that as well. So it looked nice, and it doesn't look like rope lighting. Basically, it's illuminating that center mast pole draping.
Sure. And I guess the same kind of concept with icicle lights, because we've seen icicle lights that are used sometimes up in the. You have decorators come in. They've used icicle lights, and they've used some LED Christmas lights, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Neat stuff, and that was one of the things. Where were we at? Oh, when you're down for NAMM. NAMM had the streets. This is the first year that I've noticed that the streets it's like every tree was wrapped in white LED Christmas type lights, the little mini LEDs, and it was like, that's an interesting look.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it made it stand out, but then you've only got, in that case, they had the bottom like 8 feet of the tree wrapped up, and the rest of it looked kind of silly.
Unfinished.
Yeah, exactly. So. Well, cool. I want to get back to the tent a little bit, because that, again, with the tent, when you have a larger tent, now do you try to do the whole area? Let me start with the first question. How much influence in the lighting of a tent will the couple have? Do they basically say, hey, light it up for us, or is it something that they want? Oh, I want it lit here, this way. How does that conversation go?
Typically a couple doesn't know what they want. And we know that in our industry, period. The thing is, they don't know the potential of what they have until you go in there and you start explaining what they can do. For perfect instance, the event that we did last September, we did all the ambient lighting for it. And we actually did the bride's sister's wedding a couple years back. The mom did, I would say, probably 98% of the planning. And she had it stuck in her head, this is what I want, this is how I want it done. And, we definitely abided by, what she wanted. And what we did was we did exactly what she wanted and then just made it a little bit better.
Right.
And after that, she realized that we really knew what we were doing. And again, being the professional, they're going to want your opinion. They're going to want to know exactly what their possibilities are. And so when we did this wedding this last September, it wasn't a question of, this is what I want. It was more of a, what do you think we should do type thing.
Sure.
So it really allowed us to put some really cool things together. We did a lot with textures, patterns, the wash, the outside wash. We washed the outside of the tent. We put a monogram over the top of the tent, and we lit up all the trees. We actually have an LED fountain that we put in the pool of the country club. And it all really came together. And you talked about rope lights and string lights. One of their challenges was they had this huge bridge. I think it was about 130 feet long.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It was more than that. It was about 200 feet long.
Wow.
And from the parking lot going over to the tent area. And the mom wanted to light that up for safety reasons, which obviously, safety comes first. The lighting that you're doing is not just for ambiance, but it's also for a safety factor. And what we did is she wanted to do, icicle lights. She said, Christmas is coming. We're going to buy a bunch of icicle lights. I said, please don't do that. It's going to look tacky. And what we ended up doing is we actually got 400 feet of globe lights, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with what the globe lights are.
Sure,
Again,
yeah.
I'll send you some pictures on it so you can kind of see what we did with it. But these globe lights, we actually we strapped on, I think it was about every 10 feet, we strapped a pipe and drape pole,
okay.
The horizontal pole. I'm sorry, the vertical pole.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We strapped that to the bridge, and then we actually connected the the globe lights to the top of that, and basically just strung those all the way across the bridge. And again, it was one of those things. She said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did this. It looks amazing." The country club was in awe. I mean, they had never seen their bridge actually look nice before.
Sure.
And again, it created a safety factor, and then it also looked really, really nice. And then one of the other things we did for that bridge as well is the bride and groom wanted to thank their guests as they were leaving for the evening. So we actually had a monogram that we had custom cut that said, "Thank you for joining us," or "Thank you for celebrating with us on our wedding day." And we used just an ellipsoidal goable projector. Again, not everything's waterproof, but we did have that, and it was shooting on the bridge as they were walking across with that message across there. So again, it's looking at everything as potential. And how can you make it better? How can you enhance something just a little bit more to please your clients, and also to, again, raise that bar in what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the monogram in the tent up on the ceiling. What have you found to be a good way to get a monogram on the ceiling of a tent so it looks decent? I've tried a couple of different ideas, and it's tough.
Yeah. There's a couple things you have to think about when doing a monogram. And actually, the monogram that we didn't do it on the inside just because we had so many textures and things like that going on inside. What we ended up doing is actually projecting it on the top of the tent. And also the Pro-Am Jam event that we do every summer, we have their Pro-Am Jam logo that we project on the top of the tent. Because no matter where you're at outside, you're going to see that logo or that monogram. We actually just we hid it by using a tripod. We put the tripod underneath a tree, but obviously, again, we make sure that the source for or the ellipsoidal is not close to the tree where it's going to heat the tree and cause issues.
Sure.
So again, when you're inside a tent, and say you're doing a clear span tent. You have to find something to connect that to. And to do it central with a pole tent, if the poles are not central and you maybe have, two poles going through the tent, then you start having issues with angles.
Yes. And
your monogram doesn't come across like you created it. So those are probably the biggest challenges that you're going to run into. The other thing, too, if you're using anything that's going to give off heat, just make sure that the tent people are aware and that you think those things through before you go and burn a hole in their tent.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, again, monograms are a huge part of a tent because it does kind of create that custom splash, their style into the tent as well. So they're definitely an easy sell when it comes to a tent because you have a blank canvas.
Oh, for sure. Now, to do the outside, how high did you have your source for when you shot onto the tent? The side of the tent is what, 7?
Yeah, the bottom of the tent, you're looking at, probably, I think you're about right, 7 foot seems to be pretty average. Or maybe, no, I'm sorry, probably about 8 foot. What we did is, again, we had it underneath a large tree. The tripod was up against the tree. And we had the tripod up probably, I would say, about 8 feet. Okay. Where it's just enough to get over someone's head, and no matter what, there's not a lot of 8-foot people, so
not too many.
We didn't have any issues with people walking in front of it. But yeah, that is a good point. You definitely want to make sure that projection is above head level, and it's not going to cause any issues.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. We should. You have to get a couple of links to us here, and we'll put those in the description so we can, kind of check out a couple of the things and some of the different IP65 lights. I think we can go and do a search for that. I think Chauvet's got an area where they talk about their lights like that. So, but yeah, we'll put some links in the description below so folks can find out more about some of the lights that would work really well outside.
And here's actually, I've got one here for you.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
This is the slim panel Tri 12 IP. Now they make a 24 as well. The 24, truthfully, if they had the 24, I would have got the 24. Mm-hmm. They were out of the 24s because as soon as they got them in, there was a there was a city park that actually purchased every single fixture that they had in the 12. So again, they're popular fixtures if you can get your hands on them.
Yep.
Definitely something to look into. But this is the 12, and I was talking about the diodes. Just to kind of give you an idea how big this thing is. I got big hands, and it's a pretty good size fixture.
Yeah.
Now you see here the diodes again. They're tri, which is RGB, and you can actually do a lot of multicolor with those, just like your regular RGBs. Now the nice thing about these is it does have the tri, which means all of the color mixing is actually happening right here, and with these filters, it gives a nice, beautiful throw all the way through.
Yeah.
I was talking about the vents.
Oh, yeah.
And on the back here, you can actually see the vents. And again, that's basically because it's air cooled, it's atmosphere cooled.
All right.
The pieces where it connects into the fixture.
Oh, move it over a little bit.
Yeah,
we're off camera. Move it over just a little bit.
Oh,
yeah. There we go.
Sorry. There we go. That was my bookshelf. Hope you guys like that. This is the power cord that I was talking about.
Yep.
And there's actually power in, power out. So you can actually daisy chain these together.
Oh, nice.
And again, they're very waterproof once they're sealed correctly, and just make sure that you do seal them correctly. And also the DMX is the same way.
Oh, nice.
They have the same exact connectors. These little plastic nuts, again, these are what tighten it and give it that nice good seal.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the display panel is completely enclosed. It's glass and really easy to use as well. So again, there's nothing open on this fixture. This fixture is completely sealed, where there's no moisture that's going to be causing any issues for this. So
and that's
again, great fixture. They also, I'm sorry.
That's a 65 now, an IP65 rated light, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
And they also have the Colorado band picks IP as well, and that is basically a wash light or a linear light. And again, those are 65 rated. So to the IP scale, actually, I pulled it up here. I can never memorize everything. The first number is actually solid protection, which means is it dust proof? Is there how big of particles are going to actually go into the fixture, into the mechanics part of it.
Okay.
So that's going to be dust, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So 60 is actually pretty normal. The next part is the water rating, the liquid protection. Most of your regular fixtures are going to be, anywhere from a 35 to a 55, or I should say more of like a 54 or 53. And basically, when it comes to the water protection, again, 65 or the 5 at the end, it says protected against jets of water. So basically rain is what it's going to be.
Sure.
66 is more stream of water. So if someone's spraying a hose on it, 67 or the 7 number, that's going to be submersible up to about 1 meter. And then you start getting into 68 and so on. And basically once you get into the 8s, that's going to be based on pressure from water.
Okay.
So, the further it goes down, obviously there's water pressure that's created. So that's where, the 68s are going to be more of a submersible fixture.
Interesting. I did not know that's how they measured those things. So
yeah,
learned something tonight. Once again.
Well, good. I'm glad I could help you learn something.
Yeah. Very neat. Very, very neat. So then in that, I wonder what kind of differences then, as far as you're showing that one where it's all sealed up and such. Do they use a similar concept with cords and power on the the 67 and 68 type, or is it like a completely different beast?
That's actually a good question, John. I don't have too much of anything bigger than the 65.
Okay.
I really have a lot of success with the 65 series, the IP65 stuff that's out there. The 68 with the submersibles, I would love to be able to tell you I have the answers for that.
Sure.
Again, I don't have anything like that, and I don't want to give any false information. So
well, this is a question for Nick then. Next time we get a chance to talk to him.
Exactly. I'm thinking. I think all of the cord connections are going to be the same, but again, don't quote me on that. I'm just very familiar with the 65 series.
Sure.
And again, 65s have been great. I've had some pretty horrendous rainfall and also some snowfall, and the fixtures work great. So
nice.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, we've got, we've been about 35 minutes here so far, and it's getting late. I don't want to take too much of your time tonight, but I really thank you for coming on and kind of walking us through a lot of outdoor lighting thoughts, concepts, and tips tonight.
Yeah, it's been fun. And again, with the IP65 fixtures, with the IP rated fixtures, it really does allow us to create a market in our area.
Yeah.
And again, I think, we've seen a lot of progression in what we're doing because we've allowed it to progress. I think a lot of people were so limited because, they just didn't know that technology was out there, and they didn't know that the possibilities were out there.
Oh, sure.
So, once you do one event, you do one outdoor event, you take pictures, you send those pictures, you have those for your marketing materials. Again, it really does open up a lot of opportunities. And by not having 65 rated fixtures, any outdoor events you do, you really take the risk of your equipment. So
yeah, I can imagine.
It's a great it's a great way for us to really corner the market in our area with the IP fixtures. Yeah.
I want to wrap it up here in a minute, but one question that just came to my mind. Security, as far as, when you're putting these lights around on bridges and different areas where you're not right there by them, how do you keep them secure so people don't walk off with them?
That's a good question, John. You just kind of hope that, there's the right-minded people out there. Knock on wood, we haven't had anybody run off with any of our fixtures. I hear guys all the time that they're doing a wedding and inside an event and one of their uplights disappears. Again, you can never regulate any of that, but I can tell you, for as heavy as these IP fixtures are, it's going to be a little bit harder to sneak this into your pocket and take off with it. They're pretty massive. They're pretty heavy. So,
I would have said, is that an IP65 light, or are you happy to see? No. Oh, we won't go there.
You're really glowing.
Oh, it must be incredible. Anyway. Well, that sounds great. Jeremy, once again, thank you very much for your time tonight. We'll put some links in the description below. It might take us a day or two to get all those put together. Tomorrow night is Thursday night, and we've got our music night. Bill and Jason and I are going to be looking at some 90s tunes for your dance floor. Should be a great night. Find out the Disc Jockey News episodes for Disc Jockey News TV. Go to DJNTV.com. At the bottom, all the episodes are there. You can go and watch. There's links to the episodes. This episode will be the top one, and a lot of good stuff there. So, once again, Jeremy, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot, John.
This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.